We are live. Michael Saylor, STRC, IBIT, that's the Bitcoin ETF, MSTR, too many stock symbols for you to sort it out? Don't worry, I'm going to help. Everybody thinks Bitcoin's going to 53K. Options market gamblers are betting on that. We'll discuss whether that makes any sense or not. Yes, it was a horrible week for Bitcoin, but was it? Bitcoin closed at 60K, and all the action was over in Sailorville, which we've been talking about for a couple days. And what's really funny is there's a big date on the 30th of this month, and we will talk about Michael Saylor's opportunity to turn this around in unbelievable fashion, right? The media hasn't figured this out. I can't believe it's not being talked about elsewhere. I have mentioned it before. However, I think it's getting more and more relevant because the problem has likely been over-discussed, right? Which started with my conversation with my guy from Stormrake, right? Helping sponsor the channel, helping keeping us afloat, moving along. Trade and open an account with Stormrake. So, again, the problem is mostly known. Mostly. What is the solution? We will talk about the solution. We will talk about how this 50K thing it borders on consensus at this point. However, somebody has done a big options trade and made this huge bet that Bitcoin's going to 53K by July. Now, here's a hint. Maybe we could start here and work back. That's probably Michael Saylor's trading team. They're like, well, if our stock goes from 80 to 50 and STRC goes to 0, that's going to cause massive downward pressure on Bitcoin, and we have to hedge ourselves. It actually could be him or an investment bank doing business with him that knows what's really going on. So we're going to go through all this. We'll talk the talk. We will look at the Bitcoin chart. We will look at the STRC chart. We will look at the MSTR chart. You could actually make an argument that it's overdone. It's overdone. I did a stream titled, the thumbnail was MSTR to 0, and we got 3,000 views. I love you. Thank you for watching the stream. But if everyone wants to watch it about going to 0, you have to at least look for some kind of bottom to see if it's real. Unfortunately, these guys with the 4-year cycle have been right. So it's probably more downside in terms of time. But we can still talk about, we can go through the charts, so we can talk about why this is happening, which is sort of what we did last night. And then we can go into what is the solution? What is the solution? As another note, this is the 600th live stream on this channel. So starting in 2022, on the heels of the GLDN mess, we have done 600 live streams, me and Eagle King. And Toby, of course, 600 streams. And we'll talk about it some, because we could talk about Alan Greenspan tonight, some old school stuff, because he passed away, which is kind of classic. It's classic me to be able to talk about Greenspan, because I was around for all of Greenspan, believe it or not. So we'll talk about that. The thing I liked best about Greenspan was, I was able to get a job at Wall Street when Greenspan was around. It's all fashionable to hate Greenspan today. I'm not subscribing to that. So I want to thank the Spartans. By the way, Patreon is getting some new TA indicators. I've got an alliance with somebody, and new TA is coming to Patreon. It is coming. I have been hooked up, and I have been plugged in, and I am ready to go. So 6th Street Crypto and new TA is coming to Patreon. So Obviously, for Stream 600, we have to let the Eagle King take a bow, right? The Eagle King and Toby and even Ian Bellina, because he was the guy who put me on YouTube to begin with, right? There's a lot of characters. I mean, we're not going to go through all of them because, you know, people want to hear about Saylor and Bitcoin and crypto, but obviously, I want to thank every single person who's ever watched the stream, whether you've made a positive comment or a negative comment. Obviously, this YouTube member area and Toby, you know, something special got built there with that podcast that no one else has. There's no man and woman talking about crypto, and certainly none with her sort of clairvoyant abilities and her analytical prowess. Hugely underrated. Like, you know, there are two massively underrated women in crypto. Massively. Toby, obviously, and Crypto Princess. Those are the two most underrated women in crypto. By far. By far. Like, there are certain women that get a lot of attention. You know, I've met some of them. They're absolute rock stars. There's nobody like Toby. And Princess has it going on for a kid. She's really got it going on. Anyway, so I hope Toby and Princess wind up doing 600 live streams one day. You know, I actually think Toby could be famous, like famous one day. But today is live stream 600, and we got to get everybody sorted out on Michael Saylor and what the hell is going on with Bitcoin. All right. So the way I want to do this is to start, like, how did all this get rolling? So if you remember correctly, Michael Saylor, they made an announcement in an SEC doc that they sold some trivial amount of Bitcoin. MicroStrategy then fell 36% in 8 days. It fell below $100, right? The stock now trades below the value of its Bitcoin. Okay. I don't think you can read that, so I'll just read it to you. Right. The stock, the company, is worth less than the Bitcoin that it holds by a lot. It's a 0.7 NAV, meaning it's worth 70% of the Bitcoin that it holds. That must mean the market thinks MSTR could go out of business or that Bitcoin could fall massively. STRC. Now, what is that? What is STRC? It's a preferred stock. Well, what's a preferred stock? It occurred to me before the stream that I have not explained to anybody what a preferred stock is or how I understand it. So let's do that. Okay, let's say a company goes out of business. All right. The first people to get paid are the people who own the corporate bonds the company issued. So that's in the fixed income or bond market, right? Like, I give the company borrows money and then it gives them a security called a bond, and the company pays the bondholders interest, right? So if the company goes out of business and their assets get liquidated, the first people paid are the bondholders. Now, who is the second person paid? The preferred stockholders. That's why preferred stock, it's not like common stock, like the SpaceX IPO, like stonks, right? It's not like that. It's a notch ahead. So they get paid next. Now, common stockholders get paid last. And frankly, if the company goes out of business, they don't get paid at all. Everything just goes to zero. That goes to zero. But preferred stockholders, that's why it's called preferred. Now, preferred stock is really only something like banks. It's this little niche, ridiculous market until Saylor came along with STRC and, digital intelligence, digital finance, and all these things that he created these terms and these metrics to issue the largest amount of preferred stock ever by 100 miles. This is the biggest preferred stock ever. I mean, it's a joke. There was a histogram that he put up in Vegas. It's mind-boggling how big this is relative. It is the preferred stock market. It is. Okay. So STRC, as you may know, was his way of draining dollars out of the market. He sold this thing to retail. He told retail, he promised 11% yield. So if you bought it if you gave him $100, he's giving you 11% per year to hold the security to give him money to go buy Bitcoin. Okay. Well, guess what happened to STRC after, I don't know, he reported that he sold Bitcoin? Well, the market started to lose confidence in him and the company. Period. I mean, that's it. And because retail owns it, everybody started panicking. Everybody started panicking and everyone just started selling. Like, why did it go down? Well, because there were more sellers than buyers. Retail just absolutely panicked that he's not going to be able to pay the dividends. That's the whole issue, right? Is the dividend going to be 11%? And if he has to pay that dividend, will he have to start selling Bitcoin when it's down and just keep selling Bitcoin to pay the dividend, or reduce the dividend or not pay the dividend at all, which is the height of the fear, causing the stock to go from 100 to 70, which for altcoin players, it's like, yeah, that's a bad week. But for a preferred stock, it's epic. It's beyond epic, right? It's like 2008, essentially. That's what happened to like mortgage-backed securities. And we talked about this, straight down. So people are afraid they're not going to get their dividends. Now, MicroStrategy, or MSTR, Strategy's common stock, has fallen 36% in 8 days. All right. So on June 17th, Strategy was trading at 116. On June 18th, it traded at 112, but volume doubled. So when this started, when the STRC mess started, volume, right, on, kind of like Kevin Warsh and everybody being afraid, volume doubled to 35 million shares. Okay. There was a stabilization attempt at like 100 or 109, where you had 20 million shares traded. Then when MicroStrategy broke 100, volume went from 22 to 40 million. So this means people are market liquidating Strategy, right? Not just STRC. And then on June 25th, volume was 45 million, up 12%. And you could argue that, you're looking at some sort of massive give up trade in Strategy, right? Now let's talk about this. Let's just talk about the TA. So this has been, this has been the LuxAlgo money, these expanding cone formations, which, normally if you follow Jesse Livermore's accumulation cone, these things are normally bullish, but not in this case, not this year. Okay. And, so MicroStrategy broke down. Now there's 3 targets. This is the minimum target. Okay. This is the second target, the distance. I'll show you this. And this is the maximum target. Okay. So let's go back to the minimum target. The minimum target measures, kind of at the most narrow point. It'll travel this distance from the point of the breakdown. So interestingly, the minimum target was like 87. The close today was 82. So Strategy has released its minimum target. Okay. Sort of the middle ground target is still inside the discount zone, but it's at 77. So that would equal a major Sunday night puke. And the maximum target is this big distance measured downward. And that would be 54. So essentially, you know, your altcoin that's down 90% can also fall another 90%, applies to Sailor. Now, interestingly enough, on LuxAlgo, hoping we can get our TikTok friends to see this. I don't think they can see this down here, but really, you haven't had the type of capitulation yet. You have bottoming signals here from LuxAlgo, so you could have some kind of squeeze, right? And we should probably talk about how we get there, right? Because that also involves Bitcoin. You know, if you look at IBIT, which has, you know, they can't sell enough IBIT. I mean, what is it like? Let me just check. Like the IBIT liquidation has just been huge, right? So there was a 1.2 billion dark pool trade. Okay. 29 million shares were liquidated, right? It was basically forced selling, right? Like a sovereign wealth fund or a mega global pension fund or a massive hedge fund was the one who just barfed IBIT. Interestingly, IBIT is now at the bottom of one of these formations. The Elliott wave shows that there's a 5-wave bottom here, possibly. Okay, now let's talk this out before I do any more PowerPoint and charts. What turns this around? Like, what stopped this? Because, you know, whoever's betting on 53K and whoever is showing these pictures, you know, they basically don't think it will stop. And of course, that's all over YouTube. So now I want to instinctively go the other way. What stops this? Okay. And it's actually very simple. All right. On June 30th, Strategy will pay the dividend on STRC. You know, and the question is, how long can they continue to pay after that without selling Bitcoin? But let's focus just for a moment on this June 30th date. So when they pay the 11.5% dividend, okay, because even though the stock has gotten hammered, they're still paying people 11%, right? Interestingly, they have that time, they have that date to make an announcement. They should make an announcement that they're going to sell enough Bitcoin in one shot to cover the dividend on STRC for 2 years, which is probably about $4 billion worth of Bitcoin. And here's how it would work. They would call up somebody. I always use Galaxy Digital. It's probably not fair, but it just makes sense. They would call Galaxy Digital and say, this is how we're going to solve this problem. We want to do a one-shot deal. We want either you to take the Bitcoin or go find someone who will take the Bitcoin. They're either going to do this at 60 or they're going to do this at 50. They should do it now, but whatever. And then what the investment bank would do is say, okay, we'll take the Bitcoin. And what they'll do is as soon as the announcement gets made, what the hedge fund will do is it'll actually sell Bitcoin and MicroStrategy to see if they can get everyone to panic. Then, knowing what it really means that he can pay the STRC dividend, they would then come in enormous size. They would buy call options in MicroStrategy. They buy call options in Bitcoin. They buy Bitcoin. They buy Bitcoin leveraged. right? And who knows, they might even do that before the announcement, right? You could buy very cheap, like call options or make derivatives bets that MicroStrategy or Bitcoin will go up massively if he could pay the dividend for 2 years and not have to sell anything on a regular basis. He could just get it done in one shot. I mean, you would have, in my opinion, if he pulled that off with some investment bank or hedge fund driving the market higher, right? Buying spot, levered long, buying call options, buying STRC, buying MSTR, like just market buying this stuff, buying every single dip, you could seriously have one of the biggest short squeezes in the history of markets. You could, because it would probably take gold and silver up with it. Everybody would kind of wake up that, oh yeah, wow, remember Bitcoin is the alternative currency? Does anybody remember that? It's decentralized, right? The focus is on Saylor and not Bitcoin. Now, I know everyone's already talked about, well, Saylor is a centralized entity and Bitcoin is decentralized, and that's all over Twitter, right? Okay, fine. So how can you return it back to decentralized? How can you turn it? Well, it's to take himself out of the drama. And you take yourself out of the drama and you let these hedge funds make spectacular amounts of money. Because I think the squeeze would go on for weeks. I mean, CoinDesk is reporting that there's a bearish bet that Bitcoin's going to go to 53K. That bet was made today. Open interest, in other words, open futures positions are rising as short sellers are coming in, betting that Bitcoin is going to go from 60 to 50. Everybody has the 50 target. In other words, the 50 target was edgy when Princess was talking about it when it was at 80. The 50 target is no longer edgy. I mean, it can go there. The chart says so. I get it, right? I'm not going to pull up the expanding triangle. We all know Bitcoin can go to 50. The question is, what kind of a squeeze could you engineer? You could engineer a real bottom if you took that drama out of it. Because think about it. Like, why is everyone negative Bitcoin? Why is everyone negative crypto? NASDAQ's falling apart. OpenAI can't do its IPO. They have to do it in 2027 because Mr. Market is like, we're not taking any of this. We can't handle this. They're going to put SpaceX into the NASDAQ 100, and you're going to see how much stock of these other companies, these index funds, are going to have to sell. We covered this in Patreon, right? People do not understand what this means. And if you start adding trillion-dollar companies like Anthropic and OpenAI, the stock market can't handle it. It's like NASDAQ is trying to get back above the 21-day moving average. And look at this gap. They close it up here, and then it just crashes. This is not funny. Why do you think OpenAI is like, yeah, we don't want to go through the embarrassment. We don't want to have our IPO come out and go straight down, because that's what would happen. SpaceX at least had a rally before it went back down. I think these other companies would just come out and go straight down, just straight down. And they don't want the embarrassment. I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. But, if it's over there, in whatever way it's over, in other words, maybe it doesn't go down, or maybe some of these big tech stocks kind of just bleed out a little bit, but it's not dramatic. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. It's over there. The party's over. I mean, whether it goes down or goes sideways, I mean, that action is done. I mean, we are selling and we are so bearish. The bearishness belongs over there. So if anybody with a half a brain inside the strategy trading team now, because I mean, miners were up today. Like Marathon Digital was up 4%, right? Galaxy Digital was up today. Look at this Galaxy Digital chart, man. Look at this, this cup formation that they got going on. Look at this thing right there. People know where this thing is. I'm going to tell you. They know where it is. So, I mean, you got, you know, the crypto market's ready to go the other way. It is. The question is, can we get somebody smart enough? Now, here's the other flip side. Here's what scares me. You know, I don't want to be mean, but I mean, I met Michael Saylor. It was 95 degrees with 100% humidity in Miami, and he was wearing an all black suit, just standing there out in the area outside Bitcoin Miami in 2021, just waiting for somebody to come up and take a picture. All black. It was the hot. I live in Texas, and the heat that day, it's hard to forget it. So Mike is a little special. You know what I'm saying? A little. And I'm afraid he thinks that Bitcoin going lower is great along with these whales, because he's just like, okay, let it go lower, let everything go to zero, and we'll just average down and buy more at zero. Or buy it at 30K. I'm like, oh. I really hope he doesn't think that. I do. But he might. He might. Which is crazy. But, you know, there's a lot of other Bitcoin maxis who are thinking the same thing. And ironically, they've actually started to buy. You do have people who are coming in here going, you know what? Wall Street bought the top. Wall Street bought the top. And now Wall Street is puking. TradFi is panicking. And you have a classic transfer of Bitcoin from the Wall Street paper hands, who were supposed to be the diamond hands, are now transferring Bitcoin to the whales who sold it to Saylor at 126. Right? You know, and you have, like I said, you have massive liquidation. That's what the MicroStrategy volume is all about. Goldman Asset Management has a huge position in MicroStrategy. Who knows what they're doing, right? I mean, so, you know, hopefully someone has enough sense. You know, I also think that starting Monday, you're going to have like junk bond players start to look at STRC and be like, hey, if this thing was at 100, is this thing a buy at 70 something? You know, because, you know, you have huge upside, huge yield. Like when something like that goes down in price, the yield rises. It's a panic. And amazingly, no one is talking about the fact that you had this huge panic trade in strategy and Bitcoin didn't go anywhere. Bitcoin held at 60. And what's even funnier, seriously, is here's Toby Ward on the 600 stream. Okay. Except it's, I think it's a little kid. It's like, who is this? Is this the head of Virtuals? Virtuals, Jansen Tang says AI agents are evolving into autonomous economic actors. Oh my God. Who does that sound like for the YouTube VIP members? What does Toby say every single live stream? And now we have this teenager with earbuds saying it, and it's a CoinDesk headline. Like the component of Bitcoin as the AI trade or AI agents coming in. It's all about Saylor. So if he takes himself out of the debate, people might go, wait a minute. You mean strategy and STRC are not Bitcoin fundamentals? They're not necessarily connected. They're not. But, you know, if he stays stubborn and STRC goes to 50 or MicroStrategy goes to 50, right? I mean, you know, don't kid yourself about the fact that hedge funds are, you know, there's another side. So you can get the hedge funds on your side by eliminating the story, or you can let the hedge funds attack you. They're just going to attack. It's like, you know, because they're dreaming that this is the new big short, that basically MicroStrategy goes to zero or STRC goes to zero because everybody panics and sells at one time. That sounds crazy. But that's what hedge funds are going to do. They're going to press it until someone stops them. And the only person who can stop them is Michael Saylor himself by doing something humbling where he's got to say, hey, because this is how you would position it. We don't want people to attack Bitcoin, or we don't want to tarnish the image of Bitcoin, okay? Because currently the market doesn't like our capital or debt structure as our company. So we're going to like restructure our debt, get more of a cushion, and take ourselves out of the narrative. And that's how this thing turns around. Oh my God. I hope we're on the air when it happens. Because it's going to happen. He's going to sell Bitcoin at 60, 50, or 35. That's where he's going to sell. Everyone's like, it's going to 45K where the ETF started from. Okay, bro. You know what? If it goes to 45, you're not going to want it at 45. Because you know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to have, if it goes down there, who knows where the bottom is? If the bottom's at 50, okay, yeah, everyone has a chart target down there. So it either doesn't go there, or it overshoots, which, that's something I would talk about when I was at Goldman. Everybody has a support point. So everybody has 50. It either doesn't go to 50 or it goes way beyond 50, way beyond, because he's going to sell now or he's going to sell later. That's it. And that's why they're attacking. Now, of course, it's wildly overdone. I think Michael Saylor's best friend is this IBIT chart, right? Where it shows the Bitcoin ETF has had all this radical outflow, and they've outflowed right into the discount zone, right into the bottom of one of these, pennant formations. They did it right into support. Now, you don't have the level of kind of capitulation or the extended bottom, but, you do have the semiconductor index, SOX. I mean, I'm wondering when they're going to figure out, like, the FOMO in this, like Xbox prices are going up. Apple iPhone prices are going up. We don't have enough components. We don't have enough chips. Now it's front page news. You know what I'm saying? It's like, I want to take this whole narrative and just be like, okay, I'm done. Take profits, yours, I'm out. The whole data center component, getting messages like, sell us your computer. I'm like, oh. We're selling Bitcoin and we're selling Michael Saylor and we're FOMOing into this. I would love to see him turn this narrative around, particularly with the puking that you've had. Okay. Now, again, the recovery playbook would have to be something like Saylor would have to get himself out of the narrative. The rest of NASDAQ would have to slump or go down without crashing. And somebody will start to see Bitcoin at 60 as a bargain. Now, I know that's wishful thinking, right? If you get that, like, 60 breach, like on a weekly closing basis, 52, it could just go to 52 if that's what happens. Now, the other thing you have to start remembering is that this U.S. holiday thing, because now we got July 4th, we got the 250th anniversary of America, we got the World Cup. People, on these holidays, you get huge moves. And you got this strategy, what they call ex-dividend date, which is when they pay the dividend on the 30th. So I'm like, oh my God, the move that could happen over July 4th, because crypto is famous for huge moves on U.S. holidays. Huge. Every year, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Western holidays. We've done these like 5% down and 5% back up. I saw that. Maybe that was Memorial Day. in May or Easter, where, you know, the market went down like 3 days before Easter and then came screaming back, you know, after Easter. So it was like the market had a new twist on it. I mean, and option volatility, right? The price of derivative bets is rising in the Bitcoin options market. Like people are like, oh my, you know, they're watching strategy going, oh my God, what happens if this ports itself over to Bitcoin? You know, like I said, OpenAI with NASDAQ at the high, with semiconductors at the high, OpenAI had to cancel its IPO. You got to think about this for a second, right? I mean, does this look like a market where you have to cancel your IPO? This is semis. this is you're canceling the IPO. Now this is NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA is like very cheap, you know, very inexpensive. Of course, no one wants it now because it's cheap. It's so funny. This is just being left by the side of the road, and that's why they have to cancel their IPO. So, you know, can you imagine if that actually went down? Like if NASDAQ actually fell apart? Because, I mean, SpaceX goes into, you know, all these indexes where people have to buy SpaceX and sell other stocks in the NASDAQ 100 to make room for it. Can't wait to see how that works out. They got to sell all the rest of NASDAQ and buy SpaceX because SpaceX's valuation is so high. This is all happening like around July 4th, right? SpaceX is after, Michael Saylor is before that. I mean, it's like a casino. Now, again, the market has given you nothing from a technical analysis point of view to be bullish. It just, you can't sustain a rally. You can't take out resistance. It's not giving you anything. You just have to do the whole bottom fishing, expensive sport thing, if anybody knows that analogy. So stay tuned to the channel. Stay tuned to Patreon, where new TA is coming and more TA is coming just beyond what we're doing now. I mean, we're going to be on STRC and MSTR like you don't know, from like multiple angles. Because, you know, the quest is to find the bottom in that. If you find the bottom in that, you can find the bottom in Bitcoin. Okay. So what are we going to talk about for the 600th anniversary? We're going to sit here and reminisce? No, we're not. We're not. We're going to do something really funny. So Alan Greenspan, okay, the Fed chairman who was around before Bernanke, who started QE, passed away today at age 100. So, you know, he saw it all. And Greenspan, it's amazing. They're like trouncing this guy. You know, the debt tsunami, the Alan Greenspan legacy. Listen to this. Okay. The Greenspan era mindset of activist central banking influenced successors like Bernanke and continues to shape today's environment of high debt and low rates until recently, and expectations of Fed rescues. It marked a decisive move away from sound money principles towards managed fiat credit cycles. It's amazing how Greenspan did all this, but no mention of how the Fed is corporate captured by Wall Street as an institution. Like, who really gives the orders in this world? Like, it's like Greenspan did it all. We are still paying a huge price for this mismanagement. Greenspan is the perfect embodiment of the principle that your talk and your walk need to match, lest you become an instrument of hypocrisy and eventual disaster that undermines every intellectual conviction you once embraced. Greenspan started out as a gold guy, a hike rates kind of guy. Then he turned into somebody who every time there was a calamity, which was defined as a 25% decline in stocks, or when a hedge fund blew up in 1998 called long-term capital management, Greenspan came to the rescue. Now, what was the rescue in 1998? Just to be clear. So when you had this hedge fund blow up and an Asian currency crisis, sound familiar? Greenspan cut rates 3 times, right? At 3 consecutive meetings while this debacle was going on. And I don't even think it was during meetings. I think, they never did it at meetings were boring. Meetings were like, oh, we know that already. These were like off numbers between meetings. Greenspan cut rates 3 times to make sure the system didn't blow up. And he also facilitated this hedge fund being liquidated. Wall Street came in, Goldman took the models. It was a famous guy named John Merriweather who, his models didn't work anymore and the hedge fund blew up. Greenspan didn't come in and do what Bernanke did and like monetize the debt and buy trillions of dollars in securities. I mean, nothing like that ever happened. If anything, I think Greenspan just wanted to keep rates down and wanted to keep Wall Street and capital markets growing. Because that's what happened under Greenspan, right? Stocks got big, bonds got big, Wall Street got big. Single moms could buy a house. That's what was really going on. Oh, okay. Yeah, of course there was excess, but here's what's really funny. Greenspan in 1997, Greenspan said stocks were irrational. It was called irrational exuberance. That was the name of my study group in business school. It was famous. Irrational exuberance. Of course, I'm not even going to bother showing you the chart. Like NASDAQ went completely parabolic right after Greenspan said irrational exuberance. I mean, it just kept going up and up and up and up. Went up for like 3 years. Straight up. Greenspan protested it and Greenspan was actually hiking rates at the top of the dot-com bubble to try to stop it. To try to stop the dot-com bubble. Do you imagine Kevin Warsh coming out now going, you know what? This is totally out of control. I'm hiking rates. Oh my God. That would be the end of the world. Like if you ask a chatbot what caused this decline in Bitcoin, it will tell you because Kevin Warsh was allegedly hawkish by saying, yeah, we're going to leave interest rates where they are and eliminate forward guidance. That didn't sound like super hawkish to me, at least not by my definition of super hawkish. It's ridiculous. Can you imagine if he did the things that Greenspan was doing by trying to actively stop the bubble along with the ECB? I mean, the ECB tightened after NASDAQ rolled over and started to go down. They kicked it in the teeth for good measure. And Greenspan is now being vilified, the king of the bailout. Oh my God. Bernanke started QE because he didn't have a choice. Now, he kept doing QE because Wall Street loved it. QE should have ended 2 years after it started, and then it just became permanent. They just printed $85 billion a month, and then were shocked when inflation went to 15%. They did it for years. Greenspan didn't do that. Greenspan didn't actively print money like the way Bernanke did. I mean, we did $85 billion a month for 10 years. Greenspan cut rates when you would have a stock market debacle or a debacle. But on the flip side, in 1994, Greenspan went crazy hiking rates. He went crazy. That's why he had room to cut in 98. I saw the U.S. long bond. I was on the floor of the Chicago Board of Trade to see the long bond print 8.125, 8 1/8 yield on the long bond. A theoretically risk-free treasury security, 8 1/8. He went ballistic trying to make sure inflation didn't come back. He went way too far. I mean, Greenspan went so far with the stupid tightening cycle that Orange County, California blew up because they were being naughty with derivatives, trying to, enhance their bond market or try to make a little extra money. It blew up Orange County, like the county, like the government. So everyone's like, yeah, Greenspan invented the bailout. A little. He didn't want the stock market to go down. He didn't want the world to melt down, but he was mortified at what it kind of eventually turned into and tried to stop it, for God's sakes. So now he's a dog. He's dead. Now we can all, we can all kick the dead dog. Crazy. Actually, Greenspan was before. Yellen was after Greenspan, who in many ways was, I don't know, a nonstop printer. Actually, I don't think that's correct. It doesn't matter. Greenspan was there from 1987 to 2006. Like, I didn't know anything other than Greenspan basically when I was a young man. Like, Greenspan was, I don't know, he was the Fed, and everybody's blaming him for the bailout culture when I think bailout culture came from an ex-Goldman CEO, Hank Paulson, because he looked at 2008 and he's like, the whole system is going to go down. So we're just going to print $10 billion and make everybody take $10 billion on their balance sheet. And then Congress is going to authorize another $700 billion to stop this. Like, seriously, that was the bailout. Greenspan didn't print $10 billion and go to every bank on Wall Street and saying, you're taking $10 billion because we're the government and we say so. Greenspan was just some old guy that wanted Wall Street to get going. I mean, the 90s was incredibly competitive at Wall Street, but personally, like, I would run to work. Like, as a kid, I knew I was a part of something like important. It felt important to be in capital markets. It was like, I felt honored to be a part of the process. And I feel the same way about crypto, which is why, circling back, I can't stand like this malaise that's taken over crypto just because the 4-year cycle math turned out to be right for now. I mean, that's what kills me, right? It's an honor to be a part of the crypto ecosystem. It's an honor to be on YouTube. It's an honor to work with the Eagle King and Toby. It's the honor to be your television voice or your Patreon host or your podcast host or your research analyst. That was the Greenspan era that I remember. Now, of course, again, Greenspan wanted capital markets. He wanted bond markets going up, rates down, and stocks going higher. He wanted low inflation, which he had. Everyone's like, oh my God, inflation's coming back. Inflation's coming back. They were worried about it for 20 years. CPI was like 2%. Inflation was like dead. But what's funny was everybody's, oh my God, it's going to come back like 1987. Everybody's like, I remember CPI numbers. Everyone's like, oh, is CPI going to be 2%? Is it going to be 2.5%? Now it's 2.5% a month. So I don't know why. I mean, just because they invented the term, the Greenspan Put, meaning Greenspan wouldn't let capital markets completely fall apart because Greenspan cut rates after Black Monday. Well, of course you would. Guys from the stock exchange are buying gold bars and sitting at home in a fetal position with their gold bar. Yeah, it's probably time to cut rates. I think it's common sense. But, okay. Now, again, with crypto, we've entered this period where everyone thinks it has no use. No use. I think it's got plenty of uses. And, if we're going to do the anniversary of the channel, Janice McAfee now has a website for a documentary. So it's about her perspective of John's life, right? There's a token attached to this. They're trying to raise money to get the documentary out. Of all the things I've done on YouTube, this has many ways been the most intriguing because I've like inserted myself in a very small way into this like McAfee narrative, which I think is just cool as hell because one day, everything that McAfee wanted is going to come true. And you're asking yourself, what is that? And that's going to be human freedom for everybody, right? Like we've gotten too far into this Michael Saylor, Bitcoin, borrowing money. I think we forgot about what Bitcoin is. We forgot about what Monero is. We forgot about Zcash. And that's why if they ever engineered a short squeeze, oh my God. Like they can either engineer a short squeeze at 60 or, I don't know. I don't know what happens if the ball gets rolling to the downside. Somebody is obviously making a derivatives bet, but you've got all these new shorts in the market, and here's who we're handing crypto off to. Just in case you're wondering, like, hey, Bill, why are you staying up in the middle of the night giving us the battle cry? Here's who we're handing crypto over to. BlackRock tokenized specialist expects to close merger next week. Securitize expected to raise $400 million. Securitized CEO Carlos Domingo. Does he look like every other lizard to you? Is it just me? Or is this another lizard? I mean, I had a lizard gecko sneak in when I opened the door today. So the lizards must think that this is the place to be. These characters are going to do crypto as we all give up. That's insane. It's insane. I don't care if the 4-year cycle people are right. I don't care. I mean, of course I care because we have to sort of, like manage the P&L and be sensible. But, every signal in the world is telling you there's never been a better time for Bitcoin. I mean, you can't trust anything that sovereigns say. Sovereigns are like, well, it's peace and then it's war, but it's just defensive action, but then it's peace. Can you really listen to these characters? And we're vilifying the 90s while this guy Powell, like I said, he kind of blew up the world, right? First, he let inflation go to 15%, and then he tightened and destroyed everything and didn't stop the inflation because higher rates, he didn't embrace a new model. He tried to use the old model. He tried to use Greenspan's model. That model was gone, was outdated years ago. And now Kevin Warsh, just because he didn't come in and print money, is hawkish. That's crazy. Kevin Warsh liked Greenspan. That's why Greenspan's worth talking about. Now everybody's like blaming Greenspan for bailout culture. Okay, yeah, Greenspan didn't want the market to go down, obviously. But what Fed president or what central bank chairman actually wants that? No one wants that. Right? I mean, if you look at S&P, right? Just to switch to a TA update, right? S&P is not only outside this like giant, I don't know what this is. It's like this upward sloping wedge. Boy, I remember I tried to draw something like this a long time ago. Man, was it wrong. But LuxAlgo's drawing it, and guess what? The market's respecting it. The 21-day moving average, S&P can't get above it. This is a 5-wave top at the premium zone. You have a momentum divergence from, 2 weeks ago. And that divergence really hasn't been fully expressed. Normally there's like, it's not the first down move that, corrects the divergence, right? The divergence was the new high here and the lower high in momentum indicators. I think S&P looks terrible. Now, of course, that's going to have impact on Bitcoin potentially, but who in God's name would buy this? Who would buy this? I mean, why? Oh, it's the AI trade. Yeah. Yeah. When the AI gets loose, what's going to happen? This is amazing, right? Like we're on the dawn. Like all these models have to be vetted by Uncle Sugar before they can be released to the public. Like ChatGPT's latest creature has to be sent to Uncle Sugar. I mean, what? ChatGPT is on what? 5.6? And their head lizard has talked about ChatGPT 7. They've got ChatGPT 7 in a test tube. That's why when one model gets released, they can release the next one. I'm sorry. When one guy releases their model, their next generation, all the other companies release theirs. Like, don't you think it's funny that like Anthropic comes out, then OpenAI comes out, then Google does an upgrade? Don't you think that's funny that everybody's upgrade cycle is the same? That's because they've got like three generations ahead. They're just like, okay, well, let's put this piece out and then that piece. Why do you think OpenAI wants to wait until 2027? Because that's when Skynet starts talking for real. That's when they roll out, I don't know, God, whatever it is they're sitting on. They're sitting on something. So one guy was talking about Arrow. We were talking about Arrow on one of our podcasts. Big Daddy Crypto liked the report. Grandpa Keeter did too. I'm glad to hear that. Those guys are up late at night listening, or they're listening tomorrow. Gentlemen, thank you for your business. I love it that Arrow is holding. It's not holding the 200-day moving average, but there's a LuxAlgo floor below it. It's like, let's share the screen. Yeah, and don't forget to hit the like button, right? It is the 600th live stream. So maybe you could like just push that button. Just push the button, okay? 600 streams. Come on, just push the button. I don't know, man. This doesn't look terrible. It's above the 21-day moving average. I can't believe. I still can't believe Solana. Like Solana is dead, or at least it doesn't. I mean, I'm glad Solana was able to rally. See, I love this because, it's like 7 or 8 sell candlesticks. They drop it and there's buyers down here at 60. There has to be, because all this tokenized, all this stuff that they're going to trade, like the SpaceX thing, when they start selling all the other stocks to make room for SpaceX, you're going to have huge volatility. You have huge volatility in things like MicroStrategy and STRC. That should be a leading indicator of what's coming to Bitcoin. Hopefully, it's not on the downside. Let's have a laugh and look at an 89-minute chart of STRC. So if you look at it this way, right? If you look at STRC on an 89-minute chart, it's like the fifth wave of the fifth wave. Look at this. Look at this give up trade intraday. Oh, just huge puking. If you look at it on a tactical chart, like MicroStrategy, same thing, dude. God, like LuxAlgo is drawing like a channel. I can't wait to get this new thing for Patreon. I have it already. I just, we're going to build some research with it, but oh my God. See, this is where Michael Saylor, this is where, because like, believe it or not, one of the things that made candlestick theory famous was that the Bank of Japan used to use, or was rumored to use, candlestick trading when it would do major foreign exchange interventions. This was back when anybody was scared of the Bank of Japan or any other central bank in the FX currency markets. Now it's like, you guys are idiots. I mean, if you were going to create a squeeze in MicroStrategy on a tactical chart, this is where you would create it, right here. You know, let it, you know, like June 30th or earlier. Just change the capital structure of the company and pull that out of the narrative. SpaceX. Okay, so Jeff, I did get the arrow. I saw that. You love the show. I'm glad you liked the show. I'm glad you liked the show. You know, like there is. Do you have any Caspa? Do you think it's the next Bitcoin? I don't have any Caspa, but here's what I know about it. And it's not much. All of these cryptos, right? You know, they were all hot. I don't even know if this is like real anymore. Like the volume has completely dried up. It looks like, unless I'm looking at the wrong exchange. Here's what I think about all of these layer ones. Like layer one used to mean to the moon. Now it's a joke. It is. All layer ones are considered a joke. Like no one talks about ETH anymore. ETH's embarrassing. You know, ETH, the guys from Ethereum Foundation are whining that they need a new source of funds. This is Caspa, by the way. Just trickling towards zero. Like Cardano's market cap is now at 4 billion. Polkadot is 1 billion. All of these things that were designed to like connect the world and run trading and run the decentralized world, gone. It's like it's not even gone. It's like they're not even there. It's the whole down 90% thing. I mean, I can't believe I'm not going to put them up again, but you know, everyone is kind of assuming that there will never be anything happening on any layer one ever. Like that's what the crypto market is currently priced for. Nothing will happen ever. We're back to 2019 where I sat around with Ian Bellina and everyone was like, are we ever going to get another altcoin rally ever again? And in my mind, I was like, no, because I remembered the 2018 blow up and how bad it was and how much stuff disappeared, including Bitcoin. And I was like, no, they'll never do this again. And they've done it multiple times. And this time it will be the machines. You know, the 4-year cycle was created by the Fed. If there's ever an end to the 4-year cycle, it will be the machines. Because machines are actually going to use it, assuming machines will actually use it. Now, of course, they're not using it now. There's always a reason to be negative when it can't rally. Like, I think my final word here, and I have said this before, but I'm going to say it again, is that when the market goes down, it's like reflexivity, right? It creates its own reality. Like Michael Saylor created the Bitcoin brand for years, and it feels like he's going to like ruin it in 2 weeks. Now, I don't think that's true, and I think he's got some moves that he can make, but I don't think we should like look at the price action and look at how bearish it is and think it has anything to do with the fundamentals of the space. It has to do with an attack on one guy to try to create a liquidation event so people can buy. Like that's the wacko world we live in. They want it lower so they can buy it in October. That almost rhymes. Which is, you know, frankly, that's crazy. You know, the closest thing crypto has to a Greenspan is Michael Saylor, is his ability to move his balance sheet around the way the Fed moves its balance sheet around to change the story. Because BlackRock doesn't care. BlackRock just has an ETF. Like, people come in, people come out. You know, that's it. BlackRock is neutral to nefarious. You know, they just want to earn fees on people investing in the ETF. That's the base layer. Like, who's going to stand up for Bitcoin? I mean, you don't have to stand up for Michael Saylor. Michael Saylor has to stand up for himself and for his company and for his shareholders and for all these retail investors that bought his product. I mean, generally speaking, when you're the CEO of a company, you want your mind should be on what's good for your shareholders. That, where the hell is that? I mean, if that comes back, oh my God. I mean, I guess I'm dreaming, because if we don't get it, you know what's going to happen. Like I said, the hedge fund's just going to attack. Benjamin Cohen's going to publish the 4-year cycle math. Everyone in crypto is going to get negative, more negative than they are now. And you're going to have this like 2018 spiral to the conclusion of the 4-year cycle correction nincompoop stuff, which I hate. I hate it because they were right. They were right for now. Okay. So, okay. That was the 600th market update, where we talked Greenspan. We talked about what Michael Saylor's got to do. We talked about what Bitcoin's got to do, right? I posted a reminder that, you know, people will use AI, and I forgot to welcome Who's Staying Up All Night with me. All right. So, of course, we have Bull Runner. Where would we all be without Bull Runner? Right? TLA Lover, Indie Rock Crippo, Grandpa Keeter, Jake Sahoot, MSTR Fire Sale. Oh, dude. One day in the future, you're going to be like, yeah, I could have bought STRC at 70. You know, some of this like distressed investing, right? Value investing. Does anybody remember that? That was Ian Bellina. On CNBC, he went on and said, we do value investing in crypto. The host almost fell out of his chair. Value investing in crypto? Remember that? That guy was like so far ahead of his time, right? So AI and crypto in 2018, value investing, like buying it when it was down. Oh my God. Dark, Warpaint. What's happening? Gary the Holder, members, the Jeski. Hello. Right? Grandpa Keeter hitting that Eagle King emoji. Man, is the Eagle King working his magic? You got to look at some of the numbers on our site despite this down move. Smash Satoshi, class of 2014. Sadly, he says, I've destroyed my life with crypto. Well, sir, I'm sorry to hear that. But I can tell you this. I know why the word cry is in crypto. Like, just because we got the 600 live streams doesn't mean we're having a huge party over here. We're not like, you know, Randy or Miss Teen Crypto with like 5 sponsors and Binance flying her all around the world. That's not happening over here yet. So I understand. Dude, the pain is unbelievable. Like, I pep talk you, Toby pep talks me, but I walk around sometimes going, like, some guy was like, yeah, time to get a new job. Sometimes I'm like, what are we doing? This is insane. I'm like, yeah, you're right. It is insane, which is why we should do it. Like MrsMcAfee.com. That's why we should do it. SJ747, Todd Schultz in the house. Pickle Buds. Mart Zolo. Answer my question, dog. Do I have any CASP? Okay, good. I handled that. May want to look at lighter. Yeah, somebody says that Bisher said this. USD is only going up to provide liquidity for its dump. You are the exit liquidity for the dollar from our sovereign, the administration, and the Fed. You imagine? You're the exit liquidity for the dollar, and you're going to puke your Bitcoin to they're all the whales, all the hedge funds. Everyone's down there. That's why they're trying to get Saylor. We're everybody's exit liquidity, and I'm trying to stop it. Oh my God, SJ747 is Steve J, the DeFi guy. Oh my God, Justin is up in the middle of the night in Jersey. God bless you. Right? Shout out to the guys at Stormrake. Dude, I got a thought leader with Toby, and I got like a thought leader friend with this guy from Stormrake. We got this like 1-2 punch. I'm telling you, those guys, I have said this, and I know you think I'm out of my mind. I think they can become like a Galaxy or a Goldman. If they start with sales and expand into trading, I don't know, man. Those guys have what it takes. Otherwise, I wouldn't be, I wouldn't have their logo on my channel. It's as simple as that. And if you watch the videos, I have to cue this guy up. I ask him a couple of questions, and, he's got great answers. Like, I can be Diary of a CEO. I can just ask a couple questions, hang out, be kind of cool, maybe say a few words, to give him a break. Watch the videos. We make videos now. The Eagle King is like, hey, Bill, we did 600 live streams. Can we make a video now? I made a video. We made 2 videos. Huge. I know. 600 live streams, but only like not that many videos. We're going to make videos because I know people like that, but you have to like them. You have to watch them. You have to hit the like button. You have to do these things for the channel to move, right? Because how are we ever going to be Altcoin Daily or Wendy O, or maybe we won't be those people. We'll be ourselves, and somebody will discover us. Well, we need you to help do that. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that is the 600th market update. Hopefully it was helpful. We will see you next time.